I come from a broadcast production
Oh,
career,
okay.
so
So is that
I
okay? So let me ask you then:
we can
is
get
that a
into that
good
if you
thing or a
want.
bad thing?
What's that?
Well, you say you come from
For
like a broadcasting kind of background, right? So just having an episode, whether it's a
sure.
podcast or YouTube show, whatever, having it just, whatever, I have intro music, having it just start where the people are just talking as if you've walked into their living room. Is that positive or negative? Is it both?
I think from what we've experienced, so I was with Masson, I was a producer, and still fill in time to time when they need me when I can because I love it. I think it's the people want to get the interview on and going as soon as possible. So I've seen it as a positive. It's kind of like, all right, we're ready to go. Mics sound good, look good, awesome. Let's get into it. Three, two, one, go for it.
Exactly. We do a one of my other shows is a live every Tuesday and Thursday, and we have a producer who's not on screen, and it flips between a he and a she, and both of them will be talking, and at some point we'll hear in our mic, "Oh, you're live, by the way," and we're like, "Oh," like we were talking about picking up groceries, and it's like, "Oh, I guess we should move into sports." So I was always curious if that was a good thing or not. Um, that's good. Maybe it sounds like it's a good thing. For those that are watching, because now you obviously know, we're talking with Brad. I'm going to say your name wrong, but I say my own last name wrong, just so you know. Kronthal.
That's perfect. So
Yes,
don't second guess yourself.
it's why I have Anthony K. It's because no one can say my last name. I'm just like it's K. And I always tell everybody the story. I used to be like on a speaking tour, and all the MCs would say, and next up, and I would tell them, here's how you say it. I have a long Greek last name. I would say, here's how you say it. And inevitably they would just say Anthony K. And I'm like, okay, fine. Just so you know, I spelt it out for this person. They still didn't get it, but okay, Anthony K it is. So you could be Brad K. We could be like related. There
Sounds
you go.
great. Yeah, that's what we're known as when we get carry out delivery. I'm sure you do the same thing too. Like Mr. K. Yeah, that's amazing.
Mr. K, yeah, and you got baseball players behind you, so K, that's good. That's a strikeout. See, you have on the other side of you. See, you can't have these interesting backgrounds. You got one of my favorite Abaddon Costello, Who's on Third, which I don't know how many people know it, but I can watch Who's on Third about a million times over. Is that just coincidence, or are you like a fan of them?
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of funny. We've actually got a few other guys in here that are off camera. We got Roger Clemens when he was on the Astros. We got
Oh, you
David
mean like another
Ortiz.
cutout? I thought
Oh,
you
we
actually
got some
had Roger
cut-ons.
Clemens. I'm like, pull
Oh,
him in.
yeah,
Pull him
yeah,
in.
yeah. Clemens is tired from starting, so I use him in the pen to bring in every now and again.
Oh,
But
fair enough.
Albert Pujols, we had him for our bar mitzvahs back in the day, and they've kind of made their way to the office here.
Nice. I love it. Okay. But that's not what you're here to talk about. You're here, well, that is a little bit, but mostly you're here to talk about Alloy Sports. So alloysports.com, it's going to be an app where you can find on the App Store Alloy Sports. That's gonna, I know it's gonna help us. One of the taglines I saw was like kind of betting your way or researching for betting kind of your own customizable stuff. So just kind of data dump. Give me some information, and I'm going to interrupt you and ask some questions about it. But tell me, what is the app that's coming out? Uh, is it going to come out right before the football season, right before week one of the regular season, or at that time?
Yeah,
Around
so it'll be out for the season. And I would say Alloy Sports is the place to go before you place a bet. It's the tool to easily create and consume sports data and betting strategies. So a lot of the market right now, it's relying on expert picks, not a lot of transparency, or people just going in blind and throwing money at the books. And everyone knows the phrase Vegas always wins, the house always
house always
wins. So
wins. Yeah, that's why I
exactly.
stopped
So
going.
and that's smart,
It's
and
winning
that's
too
what
much.
unfortunately some people just keep going back and without strategies or having data to back it up, and they're losing. So what we did was we created a platform that empowers sports fans to build their own betting strategies. We're making the average big sports fan a data analyst at the click of their fingers, but making it really easy and really simple. We're not looking for mathematicians here. We're looking for sports fans and giving them the data to back up their thoughts, where they can build a strategy based off their intuition. We provide the data to back it up and tell them if it's been profitable or not, and then the upcoming games that fit it and bet on.
So I love the analytics side of things. I kind of I'm the guy that overdoes it, and I'm like, this team has, like, for my own bets. Well, they've never won on a Sunday after 4 p.m. in 136 games. So they're, and I just, deep, deep, deep. and it causes me because now everyone's like, well, now they're due, right? If they lost 136 after four. So when you say it's kind of customizable to how deep, like, so what are like what's the basic? Like I can just do this, and then like what would a crazy person like me kind of run it into?
Exactly. So actually, we launched an NBA beta in April for the playoffs, and we had one platform. And from that, we learned, you can do a lot of powerful things with that. But we also want a simplified version where anyone who's like, okay, I don't want to dive into all these filters, all these stats, have all these options. Where can I make quick decisions and quick thoughts, and get that information? So we created our Quick Start Wizard platform. We'll give a curate 8 to 10 stats there, and it basically puts it into characteristic form. Do you like a good rushing team? Do you like a good passing team? A team that forces defensive turnovers? And then you go to the next step. Okay, do you want to look at home teams or road teams? Maybe a team on a winning streak or a losing streak, or a team playing an AFC or an NFC opponent. And really quickly, you have a few options where you can click into and build a strategy. You can build that in 20 seconds or less. And with the regular platform, it does exactly what you said. We have a full array of stats from our data provider, which is Sport Radar. Every average, regular stat and advanced stat that you could think of is going to be on there, so you can really build a strategy where you're looking at teams with better passing yards, defensive teams that force turnovers, looking at it when it's snowing and they're the home team, and the
Oh, nice. See,
possibilities
that's what
are
I like
really
because
endless.
I'd be like on a on a Thursday night when it's below 30 degrees in the rain, with like I'm that crazy. So I can do a lot of that. Maybe not all, but a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of that. And
Oh,
what's cool about it is, as you add more filters, you'll see what your sample size is. So if you have, an 80% successful strategy, but we're looking at like 5 games, that
I probably
strategy,
got to
it's not
widen it a
really
little bit,
battle
right? Yeah.
tested. Exactly. So you want a good sample size, and that's the stuff of the education aspect that we're trying to promote as well. Like there's overfitting that you can do if you add so many variables. Thursday
Yeah.
night,
And there
snowing
was
in the
one
rain.
time that happened and they lost. Oh, well, they're going to lose again. Man, maybe not a
Well,
good
you'll
sample size.
you'll see some stuff out there, and it's pretty wild. It's like I was looking up some Super Bowl stuff last year, and it was like Rams and Bengals since 1974 when these two teams play. It's like, who cares? None of that is even tangible. The game in 1974 to where it is today. You got to find out what works. So with our back testing data, so we allow for at least 10 years of back tested data. We default to one season. That's in the palm of your hands. How far do you want to go back? What matters to you? Essentially, we're a blank canvas when it comes to the platform, and it empowers you to build what you think leads to winning a game. We back test it, tell you how it's worked, tell you the games to bet on.
So could I use this to, like, let's say I don't want to bet, right? And I talk about sports and I just want to see, hey, the background of it doesn't probably go to, does it go to player or just team?
Team.
Team. Okay. So I want to see the background of this team to say, hey, you know what? This is why I think this team is I don't know, the greatest team in the last decade. And I can pull up data and be like, well, it's because, when they're all healthy and they play in normal conditions where it's not raining or snowing, whatever, I'm just making up stuff. They're 400 and 320. That's the best record of any team in that scenario. I can like do that too. Yeah.
So with ours, it's modeled a little differently than what you would find, say, on an ESPN or a
Okay.
team ranking basis. So our platform was designed with engineering principles. Our CEO is Spencer Kronfeld, my brother, same last name, and he comes from this
Spencer
material.
K. Keep it just
Spencer
Spencer
K.
K. Spencer K. Yeah.
We're all related on this show. We're all
That's
the
right.
K's.
For family.
Exactly. So it's designed with the principles that he's picked up from his work, from his learnings, and his thoughts from engineering. And really, it's putting the data first, team secondary. Now you can filter teams, so you can say, I want teams that come in with a better rushing per game average. I want teams with a better interception rate defensively, and then you can specifically tailor to see, I only want my team to be, the Pittsburgh Steelers and only want it to be the last 6 years. Or you can pick a specific opponent. But really, from the top down, holistically, we're looking at the strategy and the numbers first, and then what teams fit it second. And those are the games to bet. We're not saying from the start, I'm starting with the Steelers, because that's just not from what we found. This is the way that can actually win and be profitable over time. Data first, team second, what fits the mold of what you're looking for.
So don't fall in love with your favorite team. Let the data tell you who you should bet on.
Well, if you're in love with your favorite team, you're probably already in a hole.
Well, yeah. Well, did you see? You didn't see the helmet behind me. I'm covering it. Trust me, I've lost a lot of bets. Um, I stopped betting If I bet for them, they lose. If I bet against them, they win. So I'm like, if I bet every game Bears, sorry, if I bet against Bears, they're going to go undefeated. They're going 17-0. I'm going to try that strategy this year. I doubt it'll work, but hey, you never know. So I want to we'll go back to the app in a second because you brought up kind of team, and I know that you're in Baltimore and I'm assuming a Ravens fan. I'll put it out
We
there, maybe.
we grew up loving the Ravens, so
Okay. So what can you
yes.
tell me about the Ravens? Like I'm assuming you've put in the data for the Ravens. What is it spitting back and saying about the Ravens' chances this year or anything that you happen to remember from when you pulled them up?
Yeah, so with the Ravens, I think the most important part for their season is just staying on the field. I think they're getting a little undervalued this year just because of the amount of injuries they had last year. And one thing that's being forgotten is how many close games they lost last year with second and third string players. So being able to have a Lamar Jackson fully healthy, a better offensive line, and an actual defense where you can play your starters is really going to be helpful to their chances. And they have, in my opinion, one of the best head coaches in the league in John Harbaugh. So I looked at them in the futures, and they're ninth. A lot of great teams in the NFL, but if you want to get in early, they're plus 2,000. That's what I was
Plus
kind of looking
plus
at.
2,000. My only concern with the Ravens, I'm with you. I like the defense. I love Lamar. Lamar, I can't believe how underrated Lamar Jackson is. Like a guy that has had, with all due respect, basically no one to throw to, and has an MVP under his belt, right? And then he gets hurt, and all of a sudden, oh, he's terrible. No, like I've had people say he's not even a top 10 quarterback. And I laugh. You've seen those. I don't know if you've seen this one. It just came out where defensive coordinator said, I don't care what he does, how many yards he throws for, how many games he wins. He's still not. Really? You don't care?
Do you remember that defensive coordinator's name? It was anonymous.
Yeah, it was anonymous. Yeah, exactly. Smart choice. I'm concerned, and we haven't even said J.K. Dobbins coming back, who I think is going to help that running game with Lamar, and is going to be fantastic. Do you think he has enough? I have Mark Andrews on my fantasy team, so I'm hoping he throws to him a lot. But other than that, does he have enough weapons on the outside to keep the defenses honest?
That's a great question. I also have Andrews. He's a monster.
Yeah.
He's awesome. So I think that's a fair question and not something that, in my opinion, I don't think Lamar's been given a fair enough chance to just wing it out and air it out. To me, they didn't really use Hollywood the way that he would have liked and the way that he probably should have been. So his comments, I think, were pretty fair when it says, there were a lot of games where he's running 9 rounds. He's not even being looked at. There's no doubt the Ravens are a run first team.
I
But I
think they're a run
definitely,
first and run second. That's maybe
yeah,
maybe the problem.
and a lot of times they're run third too,
Yeah.
and a lot of that goes through Lamar. So I'm gonna say I do think the Ravens need to get well more creative from the passing game standpoint. There's no doubt about that. I think Bateman can be a legitimate number one, but
That
a
was
lot
gonna
of
be
that
my,
is
that
the
was going to be my
question
next
mark.
question. Yeah, Bo Bateman. Okay.
A lot of the rest is question marks. But to me, there's no point in bringing in top flight receivers if you're not going to throw them the ball anyway. So that part makes sense. But the part that doesn't is, listen, they've had a lot of success when they can run on teams and they'll just win that way. But when they need to throw the ball, and I'm not blaming Lamar because I think he can do it. He's proven he can sling the football around. Just look at the Colts game last year where they came back and won it late in the game that against Indianapolis. I think he can do it. I think the offense needs to be a little more creative when it comes to that and mixing that up because I think he has the tools, but no one's seen it yet. And I think that take on them is very valid because no one knows.
Yeah. So let's get back to the app. So Alloy Sports, you can find it at alloysports.com. It'll be on, I'm assuming, the App Store and all those things right before the season comes out. What do we need to know? So obviously we go in, we pull out the data. It tells us, hey, here's the teams, here's the bets based on your criteria. Do you plug in, like if it gets you to a particular game, do you plug in, does it already have the point spread, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So the first thing you need to know is you just sign up, you get a month free.
I was
We're
going
going
to
to give
save
you,
that to the end.
sorry. You can
Ah,
say
but
it
yes,
too.
that's okay.
Get a month free, get total use of the platforms and total use of all of our analysis. So the coolest thing when you sign up, you're going to get a couple preloaded strategies that are successful already saved. So whereas I mentioned, like if you come to the platform, it's a blank canvas, you can build whatever you want. We're going to be there because we're working together in this thing. We're in this together to help sports bettors to work with us. We're trying to build that community as well. So we'll have a couple loaded strategies that have already proven to be successful. You can also build your own, obviously, but those strategies and the content are going to be big for us. We're pushing out tactics and stats that are trending in the right direction, that are winning. Full strategies, specific stats, specific filters. For example, I'll throw in last year. So for our NBA beta, we looked at, the first thing I looked up was 3-point percentage. That's the sexiest bet you can make or look at when it comes to for NBA. People are betting on teams that shoot well from three. Well, if you bet on that against the spread, you're losing across the board. Just
Really?
that one.
So I was
Yep.
right. I said teams that shoot more threes lose more. Is that fair?
So the way ours works is saying we compare each team head to head and comparing past games with the past odds. So saying I just want to bet on the team coming into the game that is better than their opponent at 3-point percentage against the spread. I think the highest win percentage was like 45%. And just flipping that strategy, you're
You, you,
profitable.
you now win more than you lose. Yeah.
Just betting on a team that is coming in at a lower 3-point percentage in certain buckets. So if
Right.
you're a heavy favorite, which we determined at -5 or higher, you're winning at 57%. There's not a full strategy there. That's one stat, but that's really telling, saying the odds makers are maybe overvaluing this 3-point percentage. So that's type of stuff that we're able to dive in and get really quickly. And it's like, wow, I like teams that shoot. And we had a bunch of strategies that liked the Warriors. So I'm not saying not to bet on teams like that.
Of
I would
course. Yeah.
say 80% of our strategies, we built out like 20 for the finals, like 80% like the Warriors. So we're really happy those hit. But really, it's like if you're betting on them because they're a good 3-point shooting team and you see that data to back it up, maybe you add different stuff that
Right.
you're going to think about it before you
That
lose
one
money.
criteria might not be, that's not the reason. It's when you add in the other ones, okay, now it makes more sense. But if when you do just that one in certain buckets, don't trust that just, I guess, alone as a single point of reference.
Yeah, essentially we're saying like if this is what you believe is going to win the game and it's not, would you bet your money on that? If you're probably going to lose, 55-60% of the time.
Yeah.
You look for strategies that are more successful, stats that are better. Really trying to help the bettor win more money and stay away from bets that might be sexy and look good, but you're losing to the house.
Um, is the basketball version going to be, I know you said you did it for the playoffs. Is it fully functional and be back for next season? Because just so you know, as the basketball season starts, we're gonna start talking about basketball
Sure.
betting too. We might have to have you come back on, but is that one gonna be up and running or is up and running?
Yeah, yeah. So right now you can play around with it. Time we're filming this podcast, so that's what's live now. We'll have it completely flipped to the NFL design. So during that time, we're just going to change the NBA product to the new designs, new way to bet. So really for us, it's a two-step process: just build and then bet. And one thing to be abundantly clear, we're not a sports book, so we don't take wagers. So we can be used anywhere. The last step of our process is when you see those games to bet, where do you go? And we have a bit of a marketplace with different sports books.
That was going to be my next question. So I've built my strategy, or I've used one of yours, right? Because you've got some best practices. So for novices, hey, here's things that work. Here's things to look at. Once you get more comfortable, build your own strategy, and it'll give you all the data. All right, now I'm ready. I got my money in hand, which no one has anymore, but let's use that as an analogy. Got my money in hand digitally. I got my bet. Where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah. So say, Anthony, you build a strategy, you see your results, your close favorites buckets profitable at 61%. It says to bet on the Bills at -2.5 for this week. We show you the Bills, the consensus odds, and then the different books. So we'll have BetMGM, PointsBet, and a few others where you can see as a user, okay, this is the spread I like. It's in my range. That's profitable. Where can I get the best odds? So if you see one at -2 and everyone else is in -2.5, you're going to run to that book and place the bet where you can get the best odds.
Sure.
And that's our goal there. Just more transparency.
Love it. Okay. Now we're not putting the app to the test because the app isn't live yet, but you're not allowed to come on crunching the numbers and not make picks. So just so you know, the bar is set very high. My mother, who's never watched a football game, gets 4 out of 5. So just keep that in mind. We will, we won't make fun of you, but here we go. So preseason, it's week 3. We've got, when this airs, it will be the Thursday nighter, which is the Packers and the Chiefs. Packers -1.
Yeah.
And I
I
think the
mean,
starters are going to play about a half. I know it's always hard with preseason. That's why it's just for fun. There's no money here.
and that's what's crazy about it, is like the first thing you think of is, well, who's playing and for how long are they playing? So I saw Mahomes last week. I think they were playing the Washington Commanders. Isn't that weird to say? And
I
he just
I
looked
I just call
incredible.
them the Washington. I'm just done. They're just
It's a safe
Washington.
bet doing that. You're
Yeah,
not going to be wrong.
yeah,
So I'll take the Chiefs. I mean, if Mahomes plays, he's in midseason form. Give me the Chiefs at especially plus money at home. It's the preseason; anything can happen in the second half. But it's basically a money line play almost. But let's go plus one.
there you go. My strategy, and I'm going to check your app to see if it's right. When it's close, when it's like a point or less, I just take the home team. I don't know if that's good strategy or not, but
Yeah,
we'll put it up against the app and see.
yeah,
The next one, so I only got just five kind of, I don't want to say random games, but five games that I'm looking forward to watching. We've got the Chargers and the Saints. Saints -3. It might be
yeah.
better than we think this regular season, but I don't know about in the preseason. You taking the Saints at home favorites, or are you taking the Chargers as road dogs? I think, if I remember correctly, are horrible in the regular season.
Yeah, it's just so crazy because a lot of these, especially within one score, when you got maybe third stringers deciding the game, this is for fun. So give me the Chargers. I like their new defense. I think they get a score defensively uh, somehow in that game. I'll take the Chargers on the road.
So let me ask you. I'm probably with you too, but let me if this was a regular season game, would you, and you know who's starting? Let's say everybody's healthy, right? So you got Jameis, Michael Thomas, Kamara on the Charger side. Obviously, you got Herbert, Keenan Allen, and of course my guy Khalil Mack on the defensive side of the ball. Would your pick be different?
To be honest with you, my whole philosophy of betting has changed since we've launched.
Ah,
I
okay.
used to be like, oh yeah, and just go like I literally get nervous and I'm like, I can't make a bet before I look at Alloy or the platform.
Yeah.
Like I am literally like that, and I'm not trying to promote ourselves like higher than I should, but it's seriously the truth. Like I won't make a bet, on a game unless I have the data behind it, or that some I do for fun, like college basketball. We plan to launch. I play some of those, but for like football, where I mean, it is hard to win in football. Going straight up, the odds makers are on every game.
Well, yeah, and everyone's picking based on, because I people may or may not know this. I go and I do my research before, so when I make my pick, it's not like gut and memory, because
Yeah,
my
yeah,
memory stinks, and I don't know if I don't trust my gut. So I do some backup right when we do the actual, when I say, hey, these are the ones you should go for. There's a method. Maybe it'll be Alloy. Sports is the new method to my madness, but there is a method to it. Whereas I know a lot of people just jump on and they look and they say, like we're doing right now, right? Like I haven't looked at these because it's preseason. We're just having fun. And they'll be like, oh, the Chargers are a better team. I'm going to take them, right? It's just that gut. There's no science behind that whatsoever. And
yeah.
maybe it works sometimes, but who knows? So you would, okay, you would look, but if you had to,
If I had to, I would bet the
Alloy Sports
Chargers in
didn't
this game.
exist.
I don't like for this game. I wouldn't trust Jameis. Even though I love the home plays, I really do. But week one's so new. Even last, you can just throw the stuff out from last year, different tendencies. How many times did they flip that when they hone in on it in the offseason? It's
Mhm.
like you lose by a field goal. What are the coaches saying all offseason? We got to be that field goal team. We got to be a bit ahead of them. I would take the Chargers in this game. I love Herbert. I like the acquisitions they've made. I like their head coach. I think they would win this game.
Okay, I'm with you. Before we go into, we got three more to pick. I do want to ask. So these are obviously games versus spread. Any thoughts of maybe expanding it to, because very popular like prop bets and those types
Yes.
of things?
Yeah, I definitely, and that's definitely in our roadmap is prop bets. I think one thing with betting, and it's certainly with the tech of it, is there's so much to do, and people like different things, and it's easy to lose focus on what the priority is and trying to cover the entire market before you've mastered one. So we are relying on betting the games. That's still the most popular bet. Betting on the games, the spread, and the money line, and give you those two options. And then as we grow, as we've mastered that, then we look to expand into different areas like prop betting, and so on and so forth. But we're looking to be laser focused in betting the total the spread and money line of games.
Okay, we got three more. So a rematch, the Super Bowl rematch. I think it's gonna be a little no, it's gonna be less exciting. We got Rams and Bengals. Cincinnati's the home team and 2.5 point favorites. Do they get their preseason revenge?
I'm going to say yes, they do. They haven't had Joe Burrow to practice with for a bit, so they're kind of used to the other quarterback play there. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I do think they get revenge. Also, LA. Just, I mean, most teams stay healthy, but Cincinnati, maybe there's a little more edge, but guys fighting for roles will have a little more playing time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think the Rams know who they are, right? They're not going to kill themselves in the preseason. I don't think. All right, this one's interesting because it's a matchup between, and I picked this one on purpose because I want to hear your thoughts on two quarterbacks that have a lot to prove. One in Jalen Hurts, who has, the Eagles had like the best running game last season. He's known as a runner. People kind of, I've had people say he's probably their best running back, not their best quarterback, um, going against Tua and the Dolphins, who now, and they both have weapons, right? They got AJ Brown, they've got Tariq Hill. They made some big offseason moves to bring their quarterback some love. Tua, can he throw the deep ball? Oh, he's the most accurate quarterback in the league, says Tariq Hill. So I know it's preseason. They're only like I said, going to play a half. The Dolphins are at home. They're 3.5 favorites. But what are your thoughts on these two quarterbacks? And then maybe make your pick.
Honestly, I know what my pick would be. If this was week one of the regular season, unless I'm probably not betting this game. There is so
No,
much like
I'm with you.
there is so much, and that's why it's fun to talk about. It's like there's so much potential in the two teams. The Dolphins have a new head coach, like Daniel, and then Tua and Jalen have a lot to prove and how they've progressed through the off seasons with some new targets as well. I think this is one for me. I'd like to see a few weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks from each team to kind of get a good grasp as to who they are. For the sake of this game, I'll go with the home Dolphins. I like the innovative Mike McDaniel there. I think I think they can edge it out in the preseason. But like I said, if this was a regular season game, it's probably a pass for me. Just because there's so many unknowns on both sides, especially at the quarterback position, and on Miami side, the whole coaching change. So we don't really know what they're going to be like offensively and
Yeah, we don't know
utilize
their
Tua.
personality, right? Like we think we know. Like when you have Waddle, Hill, and I'm gonna draw a blank on their Chase Edmonds, or it
They
might
got
be,
Chase Edmonds at running back, yeah.
and they got, but who we think is going to be the starter, but they also picked up. I'm drawing a blank on his name, from San Francisco. Um, shoot. Anyways, but they're all super quick. There's so much speed on the outside, and
Mostert, Raheem
Mostert,
Mostert.
yes, Raheem Mostert. Thank you. There's so much speed on that team that if you can just get them the ball with like a little bit of space, we already know Hill could take a 3 yard bubble screen and take that to the house for any given time. So there's so much potential there. I'm excited to see what happens too. But I think I got the Eagles, but again, I wouldn't pick it either. All right, the last one's the Monday nighter. Lions. Lions lost a lot of close one-score games last season. They were competitive. People forget. Lions and Steelers. Steelers are the home team, -4.5. People like Little Hand Pickett. Some people think he might be the starter. Do you think he's a starter? Who do you think? I don't know if they announced. To be honest, I got to double check that. Is it Mitch? Is it going to be Pickett?
They haven't. I know they were pushing Trubisky early on, but I don't think they've made a definitive decision, and I don't think they should. I think this game will have a lot to say about that. To be honest, I love Dan Campbell. Everything that guy's about, I think Detroit needs. I mean, he infuses so much energy and charisma to that town and that team that's kind of been missing for a while. As far as this game, this one I would definitely like Pittsburgh in this game. Like you have a quarterback competition. These guys are looking to score.
Right.
They're concerned with winning a job, and they've looked really good. I think Pickett's looked really good. I think that hand thing is one of the combine nuances that kind of screwed him at the time, but will benefit him at the end because he got to fall a little bit to a really, really great franchise. And I think he's a fantastic quarterback. And from Baltimore, Pittsburgh drafts pretty well. I think I really like Kenny Pickett. I think he's going to be a really great quarterback for them. Which is tough for the Ravens, but he's got small hands. What's the other knock on him? He had a great career
Hey,
at Pitt.
listen, you're talking to a guy who we had a little hand quarterback, although it was our defense that carried us in '06. But I mean, they go to the Super Bowl. Rex Grossman has little hands. It was always the complaint. And we're like, hey, he got us to the Super Bowl, but then it's raining. And what's he doing? The ball's slipping out of his hands all over the place. And so now it's in my head that maybe that is a thing that we should pay attention to. There's other guys that have
But
small
Pickett
hands that
uses
are
those
fine, but
gloves. He has always worn those gloves, and you know what those gloves are now. I mean, you could probably palm a basketball and try and get it off. It's so sticky. I
yeah,
don't know
it's
what
like that
gloves he
old school
uses.
stick 'em. Well, we're not allowed to use that anymore, but you got the Steelers. Yeah, I think I'm with you there too. Speaking of your division, okay, you can't pick the Ravens. If it's not the Ravens, between the craziness going on with the Browns, the Steelers, and the Bengals, who is the either who wins that division? Because you can't pick your team.
Sure, I think that's easy. I think it's Cincinnati.
You think? Do you think
Pittsburgh,
they're
I
not
think
going to
it's
have the Super Bowl
Cincinnati.
hangover?
I just think by default, I mean, Cleveland's going with a backup quarterback for 11 weeks. We're not quite sure how good they'd be with Watson anyway. Pittsburgh, they've got a lot going on in Pittsburgh. Their offensive line doesn't look so great going through a quarterback transition. And Cincinnati's coming off a Super Bowl loss, and they have a legitimate top tier quarterback in the NFL, a legitimate top tier wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, they might win the division outright. I'm not quite sure if I take the. It's kind of cool seeing the Ravens being the favorites. When I was looking at it last, because where's Cincinnati? If I'm a Bengals fan, I'm like, where the heck are my Bengals? I have Joe Burrow. We didn't lose too much, and we just come on
Offensive
off the
line
Super
got
Bowl.
better. They still have their all everybody. Their wide receivers, Joe Mixon, everyone's back. So it's interesting.
You got an O line, you got Burrow, and you got Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. Like, what's going on here? How are we not the favorites? I'm sure they're trying to cash in a lot, especially as Ohio becomes legal with sports betting too. So I would take Cincinnati. Definitely can't rely on the Browns, even with Watson, and Pittsburgh's got way too many unknowns. They look like, to me, Pittsburgh looks like another 500-ish type year. Maybe they break through with a few more wins. Maybe they squeak into the wild card, but Cincinnati should be a legitimate threat
Oh,
again.
you think they squeak into the wild card?
I,
I'm
I
just gonna
think
I'm just gonna
within
say I think
Pittsburgh,
there's like 10 teams. I think there's 10 teams. The AFC is tough this year. It's
yeah.
regardless of your team. If you're in the AFC, I feel sorry for you because there's 10 legit teams to make it. There's gonna be like a 10-win team that doesn't make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not saying I think they will. I want to go into the season predicting a wild card berth for Pittsburgh, but when you have Mike Tomlin as your head coach, you have an advantage.
Yeah,
There's going to
yeah,
be a few
yeah.
games that
Never
you
below
win.
500, right?
Exactly. I think their team is average. Like, I think they'll be around 500, but they'll be in games, and if they can squeak out a few games they're not supposed to win and do, they'll be in that conversation.
Yeah, I guess when I think of it that way, right? He's never been below 500, so unless that's crazy and that happens, they're going to be at 9-8. So really, can they squeeze out one or two more? Yeah, maybe. So yeah, maybe that's a good point. All right, so it's alloysports.com. The app is Alloy Sports. It will have basketball odds. It started last year. That will be back. Football is coming out again. Do we have a date for when the football
We're
piece?
planning to hit week one, so
Okay.
we'll be out in September when we launch.
All right. So out in September, Alloy Sports is the app. Gives you all your research, and the best part, I want to say, because you're watching crunching the numbers today, but just anybody, the first month will be free. And I don't think you said this, no credit card to sign up. So you can just sign up, use it for free, fall in love, and use Alloy Sports. Brad, thank you so much for your time. Alloysports.com. This has been crunching the numbers. That's Alloy Sports. That's the story. And now you're more fluent in it.